Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and let's look at today's correspondences for work and magic. Let's see, we have Jupiter governing. Now, remember, Jupiter's still in retrograde, so a lot of this stuff, is going to take an inner reflection focus. And let's see, social justice issues, healing, abundance, income, growth, achieving goals and desires. Now, what got me going on this here today was the rune divination and what's going on in the country with children and COVID. The children are ending up in the hospital now with it, and some are on ventilators. This is unacceptable, and this never needed to happen. We could have had this, stopped in its tracks maybe, had we all masked up, but oh no, that didn't happen. We've got this confusion, right? So I thought that maybe when I was doing the rune divination, Laguz and Sawillo are again in today's rune divination from yesterday as well. But Manaz is the third one this time. And that one really, I think, defines. I mean, if you take a look at Manaz, you can just see umpteen different runes in it. You've got Laguz, you've got Dagaz, you've got Kenaz everywhere. You have Vunyo. So I think that, you're looking at the idea of the individual within society. You're also looking at the concept of unity consciousness. So it's how we integrate really with others. And I think that's the focus of today's reading. And I think that it really brings home the issues that we're dealing with right now that could potentially harm our children and our grandchildren. So, that's just unacceptable. And I hope you feel the same way. We need a different mindset about this. Well, not all of us, most of us are fine, but you've got this subset of folks that just haven't gotten this yet, and they don't understand. They think that it's all this stuff and nonsense, that it just isn't true. So this is what I've said. Given the seriousness of the Delta variant and the continued reluctance of some in our country to wear masks and or get the vaccination, work a spell to heal perceptions so that we achieve the goal of eradicating this virus. Now, I realize this is a big task, but collectively or individually, this has got to happen. Whether witches come together in some collective spell at a certain time, or you bring this back, the idea of this back to your coven or whatever, and say maybe we can do something collectively here to try to make a difference in people's perceptions. That's what I think needs to happen. The lives of our children are at stake, and hospitals are once again becoming overwhelmed and unable to deal with the onslaught of this and the stupidity of some of the governors who are making treatment impossible. Can you imagine saying that they're going to defund the schools if the schools require masks? Can you imagine that? What are they doing? What are they trying to do to our children? So what I've recommended, we've been working lately with the squares and seals, the planetary squares and seals, and it occurs to me that we could use the seal of Mars to stop the arrogance, responsibility, and the craven disregard for life, followed by the squares of both Venus and Mercury to reinstill love, unity, and clarity to all. Add the square of Jupiter, because remember, squares invoke and seals stop, okay? Jupiter to achieve a collective or shared response and result. If you'd rather use another modality other than the planetary squares and seals, a knot spell could be just as useful, just as effective as you're chanting whatever. If you're doing the traditional one, or you've created your own. By the knot of one, my spell's begun. You're doing that one, and however many knots you decide to tie. If you want to go ahead and do 10 or 9 rather, you could do 9 and then do the 10th, where you tie it together to create the unity consciousness field that we need to have, right? So at the end, my desire mine, as the 9th knot, 10, we begin together again. We begin in unison. So let's see. You want to see, though, as you chant, as you're tying the knots, as you say the phrase for each knot that you're tying, then you're going to want to visualize the situation resolving in a progressive fashion. You want to align whatever your chant is for that particular knot. You know, if it's the knot of four, I say my intention stored. You're wanting to visualize what that's going to look like manifested into the collective consciousness, or in terms of our country, the society at large. And then you're going to perform the spell during the hour of Jupiter for the best effect. And I'm including that link to that one geo website that you can put your city in at the top, or wherever you're at the top, and then it'll alter the setting there for the table. Now, right now the link takes you to Portland, what Portland's would look like, but you don't have to use Portland. You can just get there using it, and then up above there you can put your city in, so that you have a more accurate time of when the Jupiter hours are today. There's going to probably be 4 of them, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. You just have to go and count. But you'll have several different times you can choose, and then use the time. You might want to take the time factor as well. You know, dawn, noon, sunset, night. I mean, noon hour would be a good time. Maybe even the nighttime hours, because you're aligning with spirit and dream work and visions and all of that. You could get into some trance work while you do it. You could maybe do that. But that might be something to think about anyway. You know, and these are just suggestions, and it's just to get you thinking about the kinds of things you can do, little options you have. You don't have to do anything I say at all, but this is just giving you some ideas to try to work something here that brings some sense back to things, and protects our children and our grandchildren. So anyhow, that's it. That's all I have. I was out at 6:30 this morning, and because it's going to be over 100 again today, and I can't be out there. Night before last, I nearly fainted in the kitchen after being out in the late afternoon, early evening, and I thought I took care of myself. I didn't think I was out there that long. But even being out there this morning, it was 59 when I went out, and it was in the 60s when I was out there. I was in by 8 o'clock, and I was so worn out. I don't know what temperature it was, but it couldn't have been any more than in the 70s. But the humidity here on the high desert is so much right now. I'm thinking that's the reason for this. But maybe you lose all of your, maybe maybe I'm getting dehydrated and I don't realize it. But this is awful here right now, and I know that we're supposed to have 2 heat domes forming. I mean, this is nuts. And so just try to stay safe today, and stay cool. If you have air conditioning, stay inside. Don't chance this. It isn't worth it. So we just decided to get out super early. My husband had some weed eating to do up at one of the irrigation ditches to finish that out. Periodically, he has to do that to both the ditches to clear the grass out of the way and stuff. And he was doing that early this morning because it was just too hot last night or yesterday afternoon to do it. So, it got up to 102 here yesterday, so it's just too much. So anyway. Stay safe, stay cool, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.